Good morning. Happy Sunday. Welcome to Big Phacts. I'm your host, Aaron Barrison, along with Justin Everett. Justin, how we doing, bud? We stressed out this week? Are we patient? Is it the 4th? Does it matter?
Patient is not anything. You think that I seem impatient. You should hear my 177-week pregnant wife talk. She doesn't know how to spell patience now. Oh, it's too far, man. It's too long. The kid needs to come. No, we're doing good. We're anxious, I think, more than anything else, just to get there. For her and I, it being the 4th one, we're just excited to have 4 days alone in a hospital with a newborn and not have to worry about the rest of my children for a couple days. But
where are they going?
They're staying here. My mom's going to come stay with them a couple days while we're in the hospital because of the COVID shit. I can't leave and come back through the hospital, so I have to be there and stay.
Okay. Well, Just, we got a lot to talk about today. We got some Sixers basketball with a disappointing loss last night. Is that I know it's at least their second loss. Did they lose to Cleveland twice already or just one?
I think so. I think it's the second time they've lost to Cleveland this year. It was disappointing. I got to talk to you about something before we get into the sports, though.
Okay.
So I have, as you know, I've driven far for work for like the last 112 years because I don't know why I can't get away from an hour drive to and from work. Yeah. I hate it, but it just happens. So me and Bob hang out and listen to music on my way home from work. And last night I'm driving home from work. And so you are obviously a part of the music industry. Now, I'm not going to bring up our disagreements on greatest or bests or any of those things because we don't see eye to eye on those either in music, but that's all right. But I have a question for you as a guy that's involved in music. I was listening to Country Grammar by Nelly, right? Mm-hmm. Thumping, right?
Yeah.
Now, Nelly is probably a top 10 or 15 artist of all time. Like if you talk about hits and popularity and notoriety, everybody knows who he is from our younger generation, right? Not so much now, but he was like not even close to the size, but he was like our Bruno Mars. Like he did the Toby Keith shit, the whatever the fuck.
If you want to put it in a sports perspective, for his era, he was a top 10 guy.
He's a Hall of Famer, but he's not on Mount Rushmore.
What's that?
He's a Hall of Famer, but he's not on Mount Rushmore.
The Hall of Famer for the 2000s.
So I listened to Country Grammar. Now, I've been listening to this song, A.A. Ron, since I was like fucking 7 years old, however old I was when it came out.
Yeah.
I had to call a friend and ask this question, and you're my music expert, so I'm going to ask you too.
Uh-huh.
In Justin's uneducated opinion in the music industry, lyrically, Country Grammar is on its own. It's one of those, I can't point to anyone that's better than it, but I can show you 100 that are as good as. And lyrically, that song was unbelievable. And like I had never thought a Nelly song to be a lyrical masterpiece until it just washed over me in my car last night.
Well, that album is one of my favorite albums from the time. Country Grammar was like, you know, he's got there's not just that song specifically, because he has EI, he has You Can Find Me in St. Louis.
Like, that's my shit too, dog.
He's got the St. Lunatic song. He's got Batter Up. I mean, the album itself, I think 5 singles came off of, and he had the thing that makes the lyrics even better is that we didn't hear anyone from the Midwest like that with that type of slang put those type of lyrics together, because usually Midwest and Southern they were a little slower rappers and they were dancing songs. So yeah, I mean Nelly and Ludacris were kind of like hand in hand big time guys that were lyrical at the time, and then it started moving into dance stuff. But we forget about that sometimes because Nelly started making stuff singing and doing country music.
Yeah, dude, he did all the crossovers. I said to my boy last night when I called him, I was like, if you ever came to me and said Nelly has one of the best lyrically composed rap songs ever, I go, you're out your mind. What are you talking about? And then I listen to Country Grammar and go, hold up, wait a minute. They might be onto something here.
Yeah, he had a nice run, and I remember when him coming out, there was 2 guys that women loved as well. So when women are all over somebody, the men just do it because the men are in the club with the women and we're chasing them around. But I remember they were doing articles in like GQ and Men's Health on Nelly and 50 Cent because they both just looked like football players. So they had this like just mega aura about them. It was a good time for the music industry. I like that song and I love that album. It's one of my favorites.
Ah, good. I'm glad.
Yeah.
Glad I wasn't like on the fucking moon. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I thought I might be outside the state lines here, but I didn't think I was off the planet. So
well, I appreciate artists that can rap and then try to have the talent to do other things in music as well. And he was able to transition really well into some singing stuff. Before we had rappers that sang, Nelly was singing a little bit. So okay. So Sixers last night, freshest thing in my mind right now, and we were just talking a little bit about this. So the Cavs are, I think, the 14th ranked team in the Eastern Conference. The Sixers were at home; they had already lost to them in Cleveland, and I don't want to say it felt like a trap game, but I posted on Facebook last night. I was like, "There's no reason with the starting lineup in," because I think the last time they went to Cleveland, they either didn't have Ben or they didn't have Embiid. Might have been Embiid.
I think it was Joe was out.
Yeah. So they got Ben. They got their starting lineup. Embiid's in there. He's playing like an MVP. Ben Simmons is being aggressive. Both of them pretty much do their jobs for the most part, except Ben turning the ball over a couple times in OT. But it should never have gotten to that point. If you look at the box score last night, they had a huge bench problem, and they didn't get anything. So bad, dude. They didn't get anything out of their other starters outside of Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons. We've been talking about a package for Kyle Lowry, and the names that are brought up are Seth Curry and Danny Green. And not for nothing, this isn't a typical Seth Curry game, but the inconsistency you get with these guys makes you kind of want to – are you going to think twice about moving them even though you're losing two shooters? What can you get back from Toronto in Lowry and maybe someone else to help, divide that space a little bit?
Well, I mean, here's the thing, right? So, like, if you've got to give up, I think there's two ways that this makes sense. If you have to give up one or two future first-round draft picks, right? Like, if you got to give up 23 and 25, I'm sure they'll be lottery protected or top 3 protected. Something.
Yeah, Lowry's 34, so
I get it. I get it. But given those picks up, you're talking about them being in the back. You're 26 to 30 anyway, so you're not going to get a Kyle Lowry player at either of those positions. If you got to give up, so first of all, you got money, right? We all know that the money's got to work. Danny Green's got to be a part of it. Mike Scott has to be a part of the deal. Kyle Lowry gets paid $30 million a year. You need to move salary to make this happen. Now you've got I think it's $8.3 million trade exception that you can use to not have to make the money match identically, but they're trying to also find a guy to bring in like an Ersan Ilyasova type, a stretch 4 type guy that can play some spot minutes. That's going to be a buyout candidate, right? So you're going to need your exception for that guy. So you've got to make the money work. So to me, the basis of this package has got to be Danny Green and Mike Scott. I don't think that I've got a problem putting Ty Maxey in that deal if it doesn't cost me draft picks and making that the deal. That'll make most of the money work, and we bring Kyle Lowry back. In that case, you still have Matisse Thybulle to play defense against James Harden. You still have the ability to hope that he kind of gets his shit together a little bit, but it gives you a guy, even when Matisse is on the floor, Kyle Lowry is going to be in this starting lineup, but he's more than likely going to have a big part of getting the second unit going before he comes off the floor.
Yeah.
I think that if you're asking me to give up Matisse Thybulle, that's a whole different story. If I have to get rid of Matisse Thybulle, it means, as we talked about right before we came on, if you want me to believe that Matisse is James Harden, that would obviously mean Ben is going to be on Kevin Durant. If I have to take Ben off Kevin Durant and put him on James Harden, and that means Tobias Harris is guarding Kevin Durant, I don't like our chances in that series. Yeah. So if I'm trading Matisse away, I need to bring a third team in and bring in a 3-and-D wing that's 28, 29, 30 years old. A Robert Covington type of guy that can play the 3-4, that is better than 35% from outside, but his job is to play defense. If I'm going to trade Matisse, I have to get Matisse back. So I'm really only interested in Kyle Lowry coming out of Toronto. I mean, obviously, if we open the deal up and could get Pascal Siakam and some other stuff, and it costs us some younger players, maybe. I'm not trying to trade Ben Simmons for Pascal Siakam. I don't think I want anything else in Toronto. But if it's going to cost me Matisse Thybulle, they have to help me find out how I'm going to replace his presence on the floor.
Yeah, I mean, the games that, Seth Curry, obviously, for the most part, is always shooting above 40%.
Except for last night.
But you just have these games where, when Ben, it's scary to see that when Ben is 11 for 17, is aggressive the whole game, has 24, 8, and 7, and Joel ends up with 42 points, 13 rebounds, and 6 assists. So your two superstars are playing like it, and you still lose to a Cleveland team. It's worrisome. And obviously the reason is, well, Danny Green was 3 for 9 and 3 for 8 from 3. Seth Curry was 1 for 13 from the floor, 1 for 7 from 3. And when you have games like that from the guys that are supposed to be spreading the floor for you and hitting the open shots,
and no Toby, right? Like, that's important. Yeah. No Toby. Ty Maxey didn't make a difference in this game that he didn't play, but they missed Tobias Harris. I mean, listen, I don't want to shit on Furkan Korkmaz and say that he has no place in the NBA. Furkan's going to find a home. It could be here. Furkan is going to be a guy that plays 7 to 9 minutes for most of the season, and he's only brought in to make a shot if somebody else is fouled out. That's what he's going to be until he learns how to play any other type of basketball.
When Danny Green and Seth Curry pick up fouls, he's plugged in. Yeah.
And then Furkan has to be your starting 4 last night for Toby because Toby's hurt. And that is that's this team needs. I understand people's hesitation to call what's in Philadelphia a big 3 for a lot of different reasons. Joel's health, Ben's consistency, and Toby's never been part of an elite member club ever. But they really are, when together, they are a big 3. Yeah. If Ben's aggression is leading to missed layups, Toby starts isoing up and scores 8 points in 4 minutes. When Toby's off, Ben is driving to the hole and Joel Embiid is cleaning up everything and hitting shots. They work off of each other. When they don't have one of those 3 guys, this is why it's imperative. If you are going to get a Bradley Beal, a Zach LaVine, a game-changing guy, if that's what you're after, you need to use Tobias Harris because Toby is only a product of this system. If Ben goes and we don't bring in like Chris Paul or a real true point guard, Tobias Harris is going to fizzle out back down to 16 points a game. And you can't win basketball games that way, dude. I don't know what Doc's going to do with the health of this team. I don't know if they're just holding back, trying to keep people healthy for the playoffs, trying to make sure that they're being as precautious as possible. But they can't. If any one of those 3 guys is out in any series, they're not going to win the series.
Yeah, and that's the other worrisome part. When we were discussing trades, when we all wanted to move Ben Simmons earlier in the year, he wasn't being aggressive. What do you get back for a guy like that? And with Simmons and Embiid's injury history, it's hard to imagine. And this is another reason why I just don't think they're going to end up with being first in the East. You see Brooklyn, when Kevin Durant's out, Kyrie and James Harden were able to carry the load for 8 games. Last night, KD and Kyrie were both out. They couldn't get over Dallas, which, understandable. They have no depth as it is. So when you're 2 out of your 3 best players, they're in the same situation. But when they only have 2 of them, for the most part, they can beat anybody. When Tobias Simmons or
but look, bro, we got to compare apples to apples, right? So we're talking about James Harden, Kyrie, and Kevin Durant. They're 3 of the top 12 players right now.
Probably 10 the way Kyrie's playing.
Well, yeah. I didn't want to go 10 because I know that you and I both aren't huge fans of Kyrie. But
yeah, we're not.
3 of the top 10
having a great season. Yeah.
Of the 3 with Philadelphia, I think you can probably argue Ben Simmons into the top 10, maybe an 8 or a 9 spot. And Embiid's obviously, most of us agree, the best player in the NBA right now. Tobias Harris isn't in the top 20 players right now. No. I know he puts up games where you're like, holy shit, that's the guy we need. That's the max contract player. But it's like a quarter of the time if you're lucky.
Yeah, you're talking about Zach LaVine is even on that borderline. I mean, they got the all-stars right for the most part, right? So, The 5 guys that are starting in the West.
I don't think Tobias was as robbed as people want me to feel.
No, I don't. But he's a huge part to what the Sixers are doing.
Of course, but it doesn't mean that he's better than any of those other guys.
Right. And then when your top 3 scorers, one of them can't shoot, you need Tobias Harris in the game. So, the Sixers they're going to be battling with the Nets. I think the Nets are a half game back.
But now look, before we move on past this, dude, this is important. Kyle Lowry has to happen. Like if you are not going to go get Zach LaVine, and to be completely frank and honest with you, Bradley Beal's going to cost too much money, and we got to really get into a conversation one of these weeks about Russell Westbrook. I have been a gigantic. I've been a gigantic detractor of Russell Westbrook for the last 5 or 6 years, and we really got to talk about what his career is actually looking like it's shaping up to finish to be. There's a lot of Russell Westbrook we need to talk about, but Bradley Beal is going to cost you a fucking fortune because Russell Westbrook has made a difference on that team. I want Zach LaVine. If you're going to go get me Zach LaVine, I don't need much else. I'm going to need to use that exception to bring in a wing defender or a wing scorer. That still has to happen. But if I get Zach LaVine, I don't need Kyle Lowry. I don't need him. Could I use him still? Absolutely. But do I need him? No. But if you don't get Zach LaVine, you have to get Kyle Lowry. There's no gray area here. You have absolutely no punch off the bench at all. So you need a point guard that can play the shooting guard with your number 1 point guard in Ben Simmons and still give you 7 or 8 minutes with the second unit to spark that unit and get them rolling. Yeah. You have to get Kyle Lowry.
I heard a ridiculous suggestion by a couple people on one of my threads when I was talking about Lowry, and somebody asked me, somebody asked me, would you give up Tobias Harris for Lowry? I was like, absolutely not. But people, for whatever reason, felt like Kyle Lowry is a superior player to Tobias Harris. They're first of all, they play 2 different positions. But if you give up Tobias and get Kyle Lowry back, you're not solving any problems.
If you give up Tobias to get Kyle Lowry back, here's what I'd love to know. The person that brought this to you, I would love to know where they fell on the Ben for Harden trade. Because if they
wanted to keep Ben, and they said no way I would include Maxey in that trade.
All right, so they're on my side of the spectrum with the Harden trade, where you're not going to trade 24-year-old Ben Simmons for 32-year-old James Harden.
They were more concerned about throwing Maxey in, which I wasn't concerned about.
Why the fuck would you be a proponent of trading 27-year-old Tobias Harris, 28-year-old Tobias Harris, for 34-year-old Kyle Lowry on an expiring contract?
Yeah, you would have to get
Colin Coward said that.
You would have to get Lowry, like for Tobias Harris to go, you'd have to get Lowry and
Powell and 2 picks.
And OG.
Yeah.
That's what you would have to do. You'd have to add depth to your team if you're going to trade Tobias.
Look, Tobias Harris is not Mike Conley. Mike Conley got a max contract as a point guard who had one really good season, got a max contract with a shit franchise, and never moved anywhere.
Yeah.
Tobias Harris is a better player than Mike Conley. Right now, Kyle Lowry is Mike Conley.
Yeah.
34 years old with a max deal.
As far as third options go and big threes go, there's not more than 1 or 2 teams in the league that have a better third option than what Tobias Harris is for the 76ers.
Well, right now it's got to be only one, right? It's got to be Brooklyn. Brooklyn's the only one.
Yeah, that's.
Even when Anthony Davis is healthy, the Lakers don't have.
Schroeder and Trez aren't playing the way Tobias Harris is.
Yeah, exactly. And then you go to, who are the other top teams we could point to? The Clippers, Kawhi and Paul George. What are you going to say, Lou Williams?
No, Tobias is better. Yeah,
Tobias might be the best third option next to, I guess, is that James Harden now?
I think the only other team you can really compare it to is Milwaukee, with having Giannis, Drew Holiday, and Chris Middleton. And even then, I think this year
Drew Holiday would be your third option. Is Tobias?
I think Middleton and Drew Holiday are pretty close to each other. But Tobias is playing, I think, better than they are as well. You get a little bit more from Drew defensively. That's about it. So other than that, it's going to be a battle, like I said, for that first seed. Pacers are about to get Karis LeVert back, so they're gonna hang around the 3-4 spot probably in the East. And as far as the standings go right now, the Bucks really haven't been healthy the whole year. They're still only a game and a half back, and they're getting healthy. The Raptors all of a sudden are 500, and they're in the 4th spot. So the Eastern Conference looks weak, but the Pacers are losing without having that first scorer in there, which Karis LeVert's going to be with Sabonis. So it's going to start to shift a little bit. But the Eastern Conference is bad. The Sixers, Nets, and the Bucks are going to be at the top of it, and then it's going to go from there. And the Celtics, I'm very happy to see them suffering a little bit.
We got to talk about the Celtics real fast. So our boy Tori, who I've gathered is a Celtics fan from his Facebook posts and comments, so you know how we talk about the Eagles' fall from grace, right? Like 2017, you win the Super Bowl, and 3 years later, you are a literal dumpster fire, right?
Yeah.
2 years ago, Brad Stevens was the next Greg Popovich.
Yeah.
And I just saw a thread of Boston Celtics fans, Tory included, talk about how they have the worst coach in the league. What the fuck happened in Boston?
That's not true. But the issue is they don't have a true power forward or center. Like their best big right now is Robert Williams when he's playing well. And he doesn't even get a ton of minutes. Tice is there, and he's inconsistent, and he's kind of slow. He doesn't play great defense. He's pretty good on the offensive end. That's about it. But they don't have – I mean, I'm not – for the first time in, I think, 4 or 5 years, I am not even the least bit worried about the Boston Celtics because Kemba – doesn't look nearly as good as he's looked the last couple of years. You can tell his knees bothering him. They can't figure out who they want to run the offense through between Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, which doesn't make any sense to me because Tatum has all the skill in the world. He has every offensive move in his repertoire, and he's a great defensive player. But they don't have any big. If I'm them, I'm packaging up, even if it takes Marcus Smart, because – you need to get rid of some guards and forwards, and you need to go get some bigs. You need to get Andre Drummond. You need to go – even Blake Griffin would help that team out right now, and he can't move.
Dude, I got to tell you something about Blake Griffin. I have a feeling in my gut, and I don't know that it's going to be legitimate, but I feel like it might be. Blake Griffin is going to go make a difference on a contender this year. I just feel it.
Yeah, because if he goes to a contender, he's not going to have to play 30 minutes.
And he's also going to do his job, which is stand outside on the wing and shoot.
Yeah, that's what he is now.
Yeah.
He's barely dunking the ball. He can finish around the rim. He can D somebody up down low.
I don't know if you saw this circulating the interwebs, but Blake Griffin hasn't had an in-game dunk in over a year and a half.
Yeah, I saw that. His
That's
knees hurt.
Fucking crazy, bro. His knees hurt.
Yeah, he can't jump anymore. He's jumping over Kias. No more.
White man can't jump.
Yeah. He's not white. He's I don't know. He's like mixed or something like that.
Obviously,
anyway.
But he's light-skinned, bro. I was just – it's not as funny when I have to explain the joke, Aaron.
I got it. I was poking back. So let's move to the Eagles.
Oh, fuck.
Because I'm just kind of lost with what they think they're doing at this point. So let's take a look at the layout of the draft right now. And let's look at the draft order and just kind of see what we really truly – because all these mock drafts right now, they're starting to drop some of the quarterbacks like out of the top 5. And I'm not just talking about the ridiculous one that Coward had the other day. Like a lot of these, the quarterbacks are scaring some of these teams outside of basically what they know is going to be the number 1 pick in Trevor Lawrence. They don't know if they like Justin Fields. They don't know if they like Trey Lance. They don't know if they like Zach Wilson. They think they like Zach Wilson. Kyle Pitts, if he played wide receiver, would be the second best wide receiver. Now people in certain mock drafts are saying Waddle's better than Smith is, and then Chase is still the number 1 guy. So it's
hold on. So let's talk about a little bit about the positions first, and then let's talk about the Eagles. So there's a couple of facts, right? Like we are logical human beings, you and I. None of us committed insurrection or don't believe in science. Yeah, we both believe in science. So Jalen Waddle is better. We can say that, right? Like we don't need to argue about that. Devonta
You're talking about as an overall package wide receiver. Yeah.
Right. Devonta Smith could have a higher ceiling if he puts on weight and stays fast.
Agree.
But there's a lot. Okay. All right. As long as we can agree on that, we can move on past that. Jamar Chase is the best receiver in this draft class. He has been for the last
he has everything.
10 months.
Yes.
And people don't understand, and I hope people still struggle to understand, because if Jamar Chase can fall to 6, that's a fucking gigantic boondoggle for the Eagles.
Take him. Yeah.
Well, no, you don't take him. You run up to the fucking podium so fast the card catches on fire.
Yeah.
Jamar Chase, like, you remember we talked about Jerry Jeudy being the next fucking Julio Jones last year? Jamar Chase is the next greatest receiver in this league. Everybody needs to understand that. Now, when it comes down to the quarterbacks, I know everybody hates my takes on the quarterbacks, but so far, I just got to say, not to toot my own horn, but motherfucking beep, beep. Justin's been pretty on point. So not only is Tua going to be Tim Tebow 2.0, Trevor Lawrence has the ability to be a very good quarterback in this league. I believe that. But he's going to Jacksonville with Urban Meyer. Mm-hmm. There's no situation, maybe sans the 1999 Cleveland Browns, that would have been worse for this kid to end up in.
Well, hold on though, because Jacksonville hasn't been good in a couple years since they had that really good defense. They went to the AFC Championship or a game before and lost. They looked decent in certain games. The problem was they had no real quarterback at all. Their offensive line isn't that great, but they opened up enough holes in the running game. And actually, for the first 4 or 5 weeks, I don't know if you remember, because we were talking a lot about Sidney Jones. They had 2 of the top 15 ranked corners in the league, but the injuries just kind of started rattling.
It doesn't matter, bro. It doesn't matter. It is a
and they have $60 million in cap room, so they're not in a bad.
I don't care. It is a franchise that's mired in mediocrity. That's what they are. That's what they'll be. Anyhow, I believe that Trevor Lawrence could be very, very good given the right circumstance, and I don't think it exists for him in this draft. My guy, number 2 behind Trevor Lawrence, because obviously if we woke up tomorrow and the Eagles just lucked into the number 1 pick, you pick Trevor Lawrence. You have to do that.
Of course.
Justin Fields, to me, gives me everything less raw than a Jalen Hurts was in the 2nd round or a Russell Wilson was in the 3rd round. He's got enough tools where, again, in the right situation, with the right coaching, he's going to be a great quarterback. Every single comparison to Zach Wilson is Mitchell Trubisky, and it makes my fucking testicles itch.
But where'd you read that?
Go read what the scouts say about Zach Wilson, and then go read what the scouts
I've
said.
been watching his tape. I haven't looked at what the scouts.
And then go read what the scouts said about Mitchell Trubisky. It's identical, and it's a problem. Not only that, what really makes my testicles itch is that we really have respected sports writers and opinion makers and talkers saying things like Trey Lance is going to be the 2nd best quarterback of this draft and a 6-time All-Pro. And I just want to understand. You said something to me yesterday when we talked about this. We don't fucking know. We don't know about quarterbacks anymore, bro.
No.
Right? Wyoming, fucking Oklahoma, fucking Texas Tech. They come from everywhere.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that Trey Lance can't be a great quarterback, but everything points to the same issues that we had with Carson Wentz. He never played top-tier talent. It's very easy to look great when you're the best athlete of your entire division.
But there's a lot of great QBs in the NFL right now that didn't play top-tier talent. Rodgers was in Cal.
I don't disagree with you. I don't disagree with you. But to make a statement like this will happen, like you mentioned, the coward fucking Daniel Jeremiah mock draft. How the fuck are you Suna Powell, whatever the fuck, the offensive tackle from Oregon, dropping a fucking 14?
Yeah,
there's
that's not
no way, dude.
That's not good. To be honest with you, I know our offensive line's not in disarray, and we got a lot of good guys. But if he's there at 6, you have to consider him because
I don't disagree with your logic. But if he's there at 6 and you're considering him, that means that Jamar Chase is off the board. That means that Justin Fields is off the board. That means that Devonta Smith is off the board. That means Jalen Waddle is off the board.
Take him over Justin Fields because we had I'm not huge on Fields.
Now, see, we talked yesterday about this, and we have to talk about Pitts now. So I know that you think it's ridiculous for the New Go ahead, bro. Go ahead. I know that you think it's ridiculous for the New York Jets to draft a tight end at 2. And again, you're not drafting a tight end at 2. You're drafting a wide receiver, an offensive star, a game changer. George Kittle. If you could go back and get George Kittle with the second pick, you go get George Kittle with the second pick. So when it comes down to Pitts going to 2 in the Colin Cowherd draft, I don't hate that, because for me, if you're moving forward with Sam Darnold, there's only 2 directions to go. Give him help and a weapon, or get him the best tackle on the board.
Yeah. My reasoning against taking him second is I think you max out with tight ends at wide receiver if they're DeAndre Hopkins added 2 wins to the Cardinals last year that I saw with my own eyes.
Sure.
He literally won the game with the hail. I mean, and we agree every year a top 3 guy. He can finish in any order you want. I don't think he ended up being the best wide receiver, but talent-wise, who he is, DeAndre Hopkins is the top 3 wide receiver. So if a guy like Hopkins gives you 2 wins, almost anybody else, like Darren Waller, as good as he is, he's still a tight end. He's going to give you maybe 1. George Kittle, he's a great tight end, maybe give you 1. Kelsey, in certain, I think, years, you can argue probably gave you 1.5, but he's had Patrick Mahomes throwing to him. You know, he's been good for a long time. So my argument against it is, you know, you have so many problems on the offensive line that drafting Kyle Pitts at number 2 doesn't help you pass the – like, it doesn't help your passing game because you still have to protect your quarterback. So
I get where you're coming from, but again, we're not talking about – Pitts is not being called George Kittle. Everybody believes that at the next level, Pitts can be a wide receiver. So if he is, and again, as every expert has said, if Pitts switched positions to wide receiver, he's second behind Jamar Chase. He's better than Jalen Waddle and Devonta Smith.
Yeah. That's
that's what you got to look at here. But again, if you're moving forward with Sam Darnold. If you're not moving forward with Sam Darnold, then what? You know what I'm saying? That's where it changes.
Do you think that there's anybody in the first round, like what do you get more value for? Trading away your number 2 pick and keeping someone that you maybe don't believe in, or trading away Sam Darnold, see if you can get a second or third, and drafting a Zach Wilson or a Trey Lance? Like what's the best option here for the Jets?
I mean, I don't think that New York can go into this. Here's the thing, right? So this isn't – I don't think that this draft is Carson Wentz, Jared Goff. When Carson Wentz and Jared Goff came out, they were the 2 guys. There was 2 guys, right? This is Trevor Lawrence and everybody else. So it really is Trevor Lawrence is the surefire, but everybody else, you better hope that you got the right one out of the group of 5 that's going to become something. So if New York really wants to address their quarterback position, in my opinion, there's only 2 ways to do it. You get to 1 and sell out to Jacksonville just to get Trevor Lawrence this year if they take it. Or you have to use that second pick and whatever else it takes to go get Deshaun Watson or a proven quarterback. Or you're going to use that number 2 pick for the best player available on the board. You're going to continue to build out your team and know that you're drafting in the top 7 or 8 for the next couple of years until you hit on your quarterback. I mean, I don't think that it's any better than shooting in the dark with anybody other than Trevor Lawrence this year for any of these teams. They don't like any quarterback second to Trevor Lawrence. Everybody's got a different guy.
So PFF's mock draft is
Jesus Christ.
What I think is the most accurate one. It was posted 8 hours ago.
Hey, did they pay you for this? Because I haven't been making any money off this.
No, I pay them for this, unfortunately.
I get you. I got outward.
So they have them going. They have the Jets kind of tossing up between Zach Wilson and Justin Fields, but it sounds like they seem to know that the Jets like Zach Wilson. So if they decide to move on from Sam Darnold, I don't know what you get out of him. Do you draft Wilson first and then trade him? Do you trade him now and let everybody know you're taking a quarterback? Whatever they decide to do. But it's Lawrence, Wilson, and then they have the Dolphins going with Jamar Chase, which makes sense. And I think that would probably be the right pick for them because they have a pretty complete team, and you can always find a veteran quarterback if you're out on two at some point.
Real fast. In this draft you're looking at right now, where does Pitts go?
So Pitts goes. I think this is going to be pretty accurate. He's probably not going to fall to 11, but he's going to the Giants at 11.
Okay, so if I'm Miami, I'm going to take a 3rd-round pick this year and a 4th-round pick next year, plus number 6 from the Eagles to let the Eagles move up to 3, and the Eagles go get Jamar Chase. But continue.
Yeah, so they got Chase going at 3. They need a playmaker bad over there. They got Justin Fields going to Atlanta. Which I'm not sure they're going to do. I like it for them, but Matt Ryan's going to be there for 2 years, and you're not going to be able to get rid of him. So by the time Justin Fields,
that's not true, bro. I disagree with you. I think if you're not worried about the compensation, I think New England would give a 6th-round pick for Matt Ryan.
Well, yeah, but would Atlanta give Matt Ryan up for a 6th-round pick?
Well, yeah, if they draft Justin Fields and have the quarterback. Bill, I don't disagree, bro. I mean, I hope that he falls to 6. I think Pitts is a better offensive guy. I think that's who Miami takes at 3. I believe Pitts is above everyone's board because he's more versatile than Chase is. Pitts can run block, Pitts can pass protect, and he's as versatile an offensive weapon as Jamar Chase is. I hope that Chase is there at 6. That's my goal. But so Miami,
Cincinnati's so it's Jamar Chase to Miami, it's Justin Fields to Atlanta, and then Sewell to the Bengals, which there's no reason in the world that the Bengals aren't.
Unless they take the kid that I can't remember what school.
The other offensive lineman, that Slater, tackle, which some people think is more ready than.
They think he's more NFL ready.
Yeah. And then so they got the Eagles taking Devontae Smith, and then Detroit right after taking Jalen Waddle, San Fran taking Trey Lance.
Whoa. Slow down, back up. Eagles take Devontae Smith and the Lions take Waddle?
Yeah, because they got to get Goff some weapons. I mean, if I'm just trading,
I can tell you beyond a shadow of a doubt. There's absolutely no chance that if Howie Roseman picks a wide receiver and Waddle and Smith are on the board, that he does not pick Waddle. There's no way. It won't happen again. He just did that last year. Just last year, you had small, compact, fast, and Justin Jefferson dominant.
You're talking about Howie Roseman. I mean, he's going to pick who he wants.
It doesn't matter, bro. It's not just Howie Roseman. Now it's Jeffrey Lurie, who just spent the last 12 months being fucking lit on fire and ridiculed by an entire region of this country. There's no fucking way.
You think that they're going to agree to pass up on the Heisman Trophy winner to get the more?
You have to. You don't have a choice. You already have Devonta Smith. That is Jalen Reagor.
Jalen Reagor hasn't shown you he can beat Devontae Smith, though.
Devonta Smith hasn't shown you a fucking thing other than he's small and frail.
Neither has Reagor, though. That's my point.
But again, you're not going to take the potential and the risk like you did. We all know that Howie took Reagor over Jefferson because he thinks the long term is going to be better. Justin Jefferson was the now guy. Look at what he just fucking did. Broke every wide receiver rookie record basically ever set. This time around, you cannot take potential again. Jalen Waddle walks into an NFL locker room and he's a man. You cannot take that risk again. There's no way. No fucking way.
Yeah, I mean, I prefer to stay away from guys that I think might get injured within 3 games, but we'll see. I don't know how much also adding muscle to Devontae Smith's frame is going to take away from what he's best at doing. So it's kind of this game.
Stay away from him, bro. That's why Devonta Smith is falling. Pitts is coming up because they need a replacement to the Heisman winner. That's why Pitts' name is coming up. I don't think that he's overrated, But I'm sure he's being overappreciated right now because right now everybody and their cousin are scared to death Devonta Smith is going to take one snap and shatter into pieces.
Yeah, so there's a couple interesting, and I won't go through this whole thing, but I'll give you some things that I think are interesting. They have San Fran taking Trey Lance.
I still think San Francisco might end up with Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, that's such a jumbled quarterback room at that point. I mean, if you're taking Trey Lance, you have to already have something in place for Garoppolo. Like, you're not going into the season having them compete.
Well, I don't think most NFL franchises are looking at Trey Lance to compete. I think most franchises are looking at Trey Lance as a guy that needs a year under a different quarterback to learn the systems, catch up to the speed of the NFL, and then come in and take over a team. So I don't think you have to have Garoppolo moved already. I think you've got to have a clear plan set in place. But most of the quotes and the statements I'm reading from scouts or front offices, Trey Lance is a project guy. They believe Trevor Lawrence and Zach Wilson are ready day one. Justin Fields is just a little less. Trey Lance just a little less from there.
Yeah. And then the other interesting thing that I found, aside, and again, if the Giants land Pitts, I mean, good for them. If he falls to 11 and they can land him, that's a no-brainer for them, and that would suck for everyone that has to cover him in the division, especially with the way the Eagles linebackers and defensive backs play.
Just out of curiosity, where does Micah Parsons go in this PFF draft?
Micah Parsons drops, which I don't know if that makes much sense either. Micah Parsons goes to Vegas at 17.
So I don't think that that's unfair. I think that there's a couple of corners that are going to be more consequential to the team's picking. If Micah Parsons doesn't go 7 to 10, I think he falls 17 to 20, just based on the teams that are picking.
I mean, there's a couple teams that really could use linebackers, right? I mean, the Chargers are a couple pieces away from having a pretty good defense.
Chargers need offensive line help.
Yeah. Well, of course they have to get Herbert, whatever they can get Herbert.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised just the way the Giants defense played last year if they were considering a linebacker, but I don't think they're going to do that. Minnesota could use one. New England could use one in Arizona.
Bro, if Pitts is on the board, you can't take Michael Parsons over Pitts.
Sure. Yeah.
You just can't. I mean, when you're picking in the double digits and the second best offensive prospect is on the board, you got to go take that guy.
And this is your last year having Daniel Jones. So you get him Kyle Pitts. He has like another skill guy, and then Saquon Barkley's back, and he still can't put it together. Well, guess what? You have a pretty good team right now. Your quarterback sucks, and then you can go take one next year. So sure. I actually wouldn't be surprised if the Giants in the second round took a quarterback, that fell. But Arizona could use one too. They got to shore up their defense. So it would be a lot for them to fall to Vegas. I can see it happening, but we'll see. It's interesting. Regardless, so the Eagles.
Bill, Minnesota needs a fucking quarterback because Kirk Cousins blows chunks.
Yeah, well, you got to build the team first, and they were bad last year. We were worse. I would love to get Fitzmagic on this team, to be honest with you, to mentor whoever we have at quarterback at that point.
I like it.
So what are the biggest holes for the Eagles, second, third, fourth, fifth round?
Well, it really depends, obviously, on what you do with 6 or what you get from 6. If you trade back, what you get with 15 or wherever you trade back to. They need the biggest holes are one of the biggest holes is an unknown, right? Like, what is this offensive line? We don't know what this offensive line is. So let's say that the offensive line is good enough and they get through. We don't need to worry about it, right? You're aging on the defensive line. You're going to need a pass rusher. You have no linebackers on this team. I don't think everyone sucks. Kirk Cousins is fucking terrible.
Tua sucks. Tannehill sucks. It's
you have no linebackers on this team. That's a problem. Darius Slay obviously needs help, whether it's a cornerback or a safety. Darius Slay needs help. Then you go to the offensive side of the ball. You need a number 1 wide receiver. You need what Alshon Jeffrey was in 2017. Remind me before we get off of here. Just say Alshon Jeffrey to me so I can remember the nugget of information that I've stowed away that I have to talk to you about. You need another Alshon Jeffrey to be the big-bodied, sure-handed receiver that he was in 17. You need a downhill running back. Miles Sanders is not that guy. Miles Sanders is a guy that's going to be effective in the pass game. He's going to take a handful of decent runs for you, but he's not a guy that can run downhill. You need LeGarrette Blount.
So real quick, that you mentioned Miles Sanders. I was listening to Philly Sports Radio yesterday, and the Eagles, by the way, are projected to take a corner in round 2 and a center in round 3.
I struck a nerve, buddy. Hold on. I didn't think Bill was going to go off like this. Cousins is definitely not better than Randall Cunningham. Cousins is definitely not better than Fran Tarkenton. I could go in all the generations. I'll say Kirk Cousins is probably as good as Donovan McNabb, but Aaron might fucking blow his head off of his shoulders.
That's wrong. He's not as good as McNabb was.
And exactly, he got my point. See, to answer your simple question, Aaron, every single position they need help at. They just need help everywhere, man. They need so many things that this has to be the make or break draft for Howie Roseman. If Howie does not find 4 starters in this draft, just starters, 4 starters, he should be out of a job.
Yeah. Kirk Cousins or Dante Culpepper?
Oh, wow.
Like that one?
A good listen, man, it's only because of how old I am. It's got to be Dante Culpepper for me.
Well, you got to remember, though, as soon as Moss left, Culpepper was a backup by the second year.
Terrible. He was fucking awful. I
think Cousins is better than Culpepper, but it's hard to judge Culpepper and not link him to Moss. Right? I mean,
and it's hard to say Kirk Cousins is good because Justin Jefferson broke every fucking rookie record Randy Moss said.
Yeah, got to get him the ball. So
yeah, I get it. I'm just saying Kirk Cousins is a B-level quarterback. You have Mount Rushmore, the Aaron Rodgers, the Russell Wilsons, the Tom Brady's, right? And then you have the Hall of Fame level, which are your good quarterbacks, your Josh Allen's, right? And Kirk Cousins is just one level under. That's all I'm saying.
Maybe a level and a half. So if the Eagles land, let's say they go wide receiver, corner, they miss on their 3rd round, they get a center or an offensive lineman in the 4th. And stuff starts to shape up. Alex Singleton has a good year. Fletcher Cox has a good year. Sweat breaks out as a decent defensive end. And the biggest X factor is Hurts. I was going to bring up a point about Miles Sanders. So Miles Sanders is going to be due a contract at the end of 2023, I believe. Okay. This is a waste of a season. So you're going to get something out of Miles Sanders, but it's not going to matter until the following year. And then do you, at that point or early on, since his value is so high, would you consider trading Miles Sanders because you're not going to make the playoffs for at least 2 years, and you might get some good value back?
What am I getting?
Let's say a 2nd or 3rd round. Let's say a 3rd round pick.
No.
You don't trade him for a 3rd?
No. A 2? I trade him for a 2. If I get a 3,
I don't think you can get a 2 for a running back.
If I get a 3 this year and a 3 next year, I'll make that deal.
Yeah, that would be hard to get for a running back.
Of course it would be, and that's my point, though, because Miles Sanders, to the right team, is a game-changing player.
Yeah.
So you want a game change? I don't need to move on from Miles Sanders, but I understand he's got value. If you need this guy, you're going to fucking pay for this guy.
Yeah, I would rather swap because he's going to be due a contract that we're not going to want to pay him. We're going to move on from him. You can't afford to pay a running back. I'm interested to see what the Eagles do. You have to get at least 3 of these picks right and make them starters. Because,
no, you got to get 4. No. It's not 2 or 3. It's 4. You have so many fucking deficiencies. You have so many deficiencies based on your terrible football acumen. You need 4 starters. If you don't get 4 starters, it's a failure. I know I promised you I wasn't going to say anything about it, but I got to now. At least we have found a guy. Wait a minute. Wrong button. There it is. At least we have found a guy. At least we found a guy that will probably agree with you that Donovan McNabb's a Hall of Famer. Because if Kirk Cousins is a statistical monster, Donovan's got to be a fucking Hall of Famer.
He is a statistical monster. It doesn't translate, and he gets a lot of garbage time garbage time passing yards as well. So yeah, I mean, it's going to be hard to get 4 out of Howie Roseman.
The problem, why did the Indianapolis Colts do it?
They have a better GM.
Why do the New England Patriots do it?
They have a better GM.
So if you fail at getting 4 starters out of a very deep draft, you're fucking gone, bud. Fuck the broom closet where you did the books. You're out the building.
Why is his leash so long right now? Is it because Lurie signed off on everything that he's done?
No, I think it's because, listen, dog, Howie Roseman is a financial attorney. That's what his trade is, right? And Jeff Lurie's a fucking billionaire. So Jeff Lurie looks at a guy who saves him money or accomplishes the same amount with less and goes, oh, this is my fucking guy. I didn't have to spend $270 million today. It only cost me $130. I'm going to stick with this cat. It's because he's a money guy. And the issue is Jeff Lurie does not have a guy that runs the front office financially separate from the general manager, which you should have. You should have that separation. The Indianapolis Colts general manager is not the end-all be-all of that budget. Jim Irsay is. That's what Irsay's job is as the owner.
It's just amazing. It's amazing to me. It's amazing to me how well the Colts have drafted. So they have a top 2 offensive guard in the league. They drafted a top 3 linebacker in the league. They just landed the quarterback that they wanted, and they have $40 million in cap space still. And that's with getting Buckner from San Fran the other year. They drafted Jonathan Taylor as their run. I mean, it's like it disgusts me. So and actually, I was reading yesterday, and I posted this. PFF ranked like who's the starters and how well teams have drafted over the last 4 or 5 years. The Eagles, as far as how their players are graded, are 30th in the NFL. So there's 2 teams worse. I don't know which teams they are. Maybe the Jets. Like that's what we look like right now.
The Jets and the Bengals.
Not the Browns. It's not the Browns. They've drafted great. I mean,
the Jets and the Bengals probably.
Yeah. You see what's going on in the NFL and all these teams that are coming back up and having good seasons after a couple years. They're drafting well. Their GM got replaced when they started drafting well, and then here we are still stuck with Howie. And you got 2 potential first next year. So if Howie blows it this year, if he is still drafting next year, I gotta
ask you a question. All right, if Frank Reich needs a rehab season with Carson Wentz, right? Where Carson isn't at the top of his game. What do you think the Colts are? A 9 or a 10-win team?
They're still a 10-win team because their defense and running back and running game's still good.
Yeah. Now, do you think that it's a slam dunk if Carson struggles that they win that division?
What's it? AFC South. If he struggled, well, think about this. The Texans they're not going to have more than 2 or 3 wins. They might be the worst team in the NFL next year. The Jaguars might win 4 or 5 games if Trevor Lawrence ends up being that good and they sign free agents. People actually want to go there. So it's the Colts and the Titans, right? I still like the Titans just because they've had their offense together. A.J. Brown is still there. So
if you know that you're going to have 9 or 10 wins from the Colts, you think that the Titans are probably going to be right there, right? So they may not win the division. Right there. Okay. Yeah. If that happens, that second pick that vests into a first, because obviously Carson would have played the year through, would be 15 to 18. Which is a pretty fucking solid spot to get to Carson Wentz.
You have to remember, based off the playoff seeding, there's a team last year that made the playoffs in the AFC that's not going to make it this year. It's going to be Pittsburgh. So they're that 12-0 or 11-0 start they had last year.
I don't think I can agree with you.
You think Pittsburgh's going to be good next year?
No, I think they could make the playoffs.
Pittsburgh?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm not saying it's a slam dunk, but if you said to me Pittsburgh won 9 or 10 games and made the playoffs, I wouldn't be surprised.
I don't think they win more games than the Colts.
I don't know about that.
In the division with the Browns and the Ravens?
If Carson Wentz struggles, I don't think that you can use the Colts to compare because I think the Colts are going to look like they took a gigantic step backward. The Ravens don't scare me. Lamar Jackson doesn't know how to be a quarterback.
But they're still going to have 12 or 13 wins because they're the Ravens.
I don't think so, bro. I think it's as likely that the Ravens step down to 10 as it is that the Pittsburgh Steelers get ousted with 7. I don't agree.
I don't agree with that. Okay, so
Donovan McNabb's a Hall of Famer.
Did someone say that? Probably not. So, given all this, draft is in April. On Sunday, Justin and I are going to do a mock draft. We're not going to do it on Tuesday because 2 days is not enough time for me to put together a mock draft. I know you're going to be busy this week getting ready for the 4th, the 3.5 that you have.
And then next Tuesday, not the one upcoming, next Tuesday, AA Ron will be here by himself because we'll be in the hospital having the kids. And then I'll be back that Sunday.
I'm going to talk for an hour. The ratings are going to be sky high. It's fucking sky high.
It's crazy how people like Colin Cowherd and Skip Bayless get so much attention, isn't it? It's almost like people like to make fun of dumb takes.
Sixers next game is, let's see, we're close to the All-Star break. When's that?
Well, we're close to the trade deadline, so it's got to be a couple of weeks.
All right, let's see. Sixers. So actually, we got 2 games left until the All-Star break, it looks like. So we're playing the Pacers, which I would recommend everybody watch that game. That could potentially be a playoff preview, and then back to the Jazz, who are playing probably the best basketball in the NBA. So they need to make up. I would bet that after an embarrassing loss to the Cavs, they are going to put it on the Pacers at home. And then the Jazz come in, looks like 2 days later. I don't know who they're playing before, but I'll give you some predictions on that. Any closing thoughts, Just?
No, I mean, so talking about the draft, I again feel so much like Trevor Lawrence is getting overrated because Urban Meyer's bad. The 76ers need to make a fucking trade. Daryl Morey, give me something. I need something. I need a trade. I need Kyle Lowry. I need Zach LaVine. Fuck, at this point, I'll take Nemanja Bjelica from the fucking Kings. Get me something that improves this team. Please.
Yeah, trade deadline is almost a month away, March 25th. He's and trust when I say this, I know you've seen it, but even if you look at his Wikipedia, all the moves he made throughout deadlines in Houston, it's not going to be a quiet trade deadline for the Sixers, even if it's them just acquiring depth. I think they feel pretty good that they can win the East and get to the finals in the East, but they know they need to make a couple moves. They need to get a couple. If they could get 2, 3 and D's, like just to add some depth that are semi-consistent, that it's a big gain for them. So we'll watch out for that. We'll have our mock draft on Sunday, and spring training's coming up. So I'm going to start watching some Phillies baseball, which I haven't watched in a couple years, and give Justin some baseball insight here coming up. Are you excited for Phillies spring training, bud?
I'm excited. I'm excited anytime you think that you can outsports me, AA Ron. I'm ready for it.
Oh, every time. Baseball is my sport. There's never an episode that goes by that I'm like, oh, Justin got the better of me on this one.
You just said out loud on camera, live to people, that you haven't watched Phillies baseball in a couple years, dog.
I haven't.
Baseball ain't your motherfucking sport then.
I don't have fucking time to sit down for 3 hours and watch baseball games, but guess what? I'm gonna have to this year. So
That's fucked up, Bill. That's not nice. We will talk baseball, though. I'm excited for baseball season to start up just to give me something to talk about every day again.
Yeah, me too. All right. We'll see you guys on Tuesday at 11 p.m. Big Phacts, all streaming platforms, live on Tuesday and Sunday, 11 o'clock, Justin. I will see you then.
Peace, bro.